Hi guys, welcome back to part 2. This is going to be the swatching video to go with part 1, which was the big mega haul video. My name is Mina, welcome back. This is the Mina Does Art Stuff YouTube channel, and on this channel we do art stuff. So let's dive in, shall we? So I really wanted to try out the sketchbook that I got to see how it works with these different media, pens, watercolor pens, watercolor markers rather, paint pens, line markers, and watercolors as well, just to see how they handle the different stuff. The watercolors and things I will also test out on some watercolor paper as well. I have this little sketchbook, watercolor sketchbook, which claims to be cotton, but I think it has some cotton in it. It's not 100% cotton, I don't think. And this size is just too small for me. I don't really use it for anything, so I'm just going to use it for swatches for now. And yeah, so we'll do some swatching in here as well with the different stuff. So in this book, I'm actually going to do the swatches at the back because I don't want to, I might end up using this as like a planner type book. So I think this is the same paper. Yeah, feels like it's the same paper. So I'm going to use the back page as kind of like a test page. So I think first we will swatch out these Derwent Line Makers. So this paper is kind of like a cream off-white colour, so I'm not sure how well the yellow will necessarily show up. They're all a 0.3. They claim to be permanent, so once they've dried a bit I'll test it out with some water to see if any of them run, because it'd be nice to know if they would work with watercolours. This is the red. We've got a purple. Blue, pink, and finally a green, which is more like a phthalo green type of shade. Okay, so that's how those look on paper. That's the Derwent Line Makers. They're quite nice to write with, they don't skip, they flow quite nicely. So we'll see how waterproof they are. They seem to be pretty smudge proof right now, so let's just do a quick little test. I'm also using the Jackson size 9 travel brush. I wanted to try it out. I've already washed it and got all the glue stuff they put on the bristles to keep it nice and straight off, so it's all good. Yep. Appears to be pretty waterproof, which is nice. That purple let off a little bit of pigment, but that's just probably because it's not fully dry yet. Yeah, I mean that's pretty decent. Nothing is there. Again, a bit of the blue is budged, but I think that's just because it's not completely dry. But otherwise I think those have actually worked quite well. Okay, then next up I'll do the acrylic, the paint pens, the Derwent paint pens. I've already unwrapped all of these. They were individually wrapped, but I just left one to show you on camera. So they are individually wrapped in plastic, which is a bit annoying, but all you do is just like twist it and the plastic comes off really easily, like that. Okay, so they all need a good shake. Okay, and then I'll start with the red one. You gotta prime them. There we go. Oh wow, it's really lovely, rich. This one's called Cranberry. That's a nice colour. Okay, and then this is the Magenta. This one's Leaf Green. That's really nice, sort of like limey colour. Kind of like a green gold, which I really like. Then we have a Sea Green, which is this like blue tealy colour, which is like, yeah, a lovely turquoise colour. And finally we have a Violet. So yeah, those are really nice. And these are just acrylic paint pens. And yeah, really, okay, and they say to store these horizontally, so I need to find somewhere to store these nice and flat. Then let's try these Albert Dürer watercolor markers. They have 2 tips on them, they're double-ended. So the colors that we have are dark sepia, green gold, permanent green olive, May green, and ultramarine. So yeah, I definitely looked up the colors before I got these because that sounds like my cup of tea. So we've got a nice sort of fat brush tip on this side, on one end. And then on the other side is a bullet nib. Okay, that's the dark sepia. Then we have green gold. Wow, they're really juicy. Permanent green olive. May green. Just like a nice sort of leafy green colour. And finally we have ultramarine, which I'll just do up here. That's a lovely blue. And then we'll take some water and see if we can reactivate these. They're watercolour markers, so you should be able to move them with water, but it might just be this paper's not perfect for it. Yeah, that activates quite nicely. Yeah, so that's how those look on here. Take a look, none of that has bled through to the other side, which is pretty awesome. And whilst we wait for these to dry on there, I will swatch them out on the watercolor paper as well, and we can see how they activate on here. Okay, so they're pretty staining from the looks of it, like they're not going to budge, but you can reactivate it. Move the pigment around it a little bit, but you're never going to get rid of. But that could also just be the paper. I'll have to try them out on a few other types of paper. I'm not sure. It feels like this either might be something wrong with the paper or something, because it's just sort of seeped right in. It's not really moving that much on the page. I might try it quickly on another piece of paper just to see if it's the paper or the actual markers that are just like this. Okay, so I just tried it on this pad block of Jackson's hot press watercolor paper that I just had lying around, and yeah, the markers completely reactivate properly on this paper. So I think it might just be the sizing in this book because it's not working particularly well right now, or maybe it's just that page, but we'll see. But yeah, the only one that didn't budge as much was the ultramarine. The rest pretty much entirely reactivated and the markings kind of disappeared with the water. So so yeah, that's interesting. I'll keep this out in case I need to swatch something else on it as well. So those were the Faber-Castell Albert Dürer watercolor markers. So yeah, really nice color range, great for landscapes as the name would suggest. It's a landscape set, and yeah, look forward to playing around with these a bit more. That's those ones. Then we'll do the Ecoline pens next. So I got the earth set and the red set, and so I'll just run through the colors really quickly. The earth set has deep ochre, gold ochre, yellow ochre, sand yellow, and saffron yellow. And the red set has a vermilion, mahogany, carmine, deep orange and scarlet. So those are the colours in the reds and the earths. That's pretty dry now, so we'll just go on to the next page, and we'll start with the earth ones. So this is deep ochre. This is gold ochre. And again, these have a brush tip. Then we have yellow ochre. Sand yellow. And saffron yellow. Those are the yellows, and I'll swatch these out on watercolor paper as well in a second. Let's just do the reds. So first up we have vermilion, mahogany, carmine, deep orange, and scarlet. So that does a pretty decent job on this paper. It's clearly not watercolor paper, and it does buckle a bit with water. You can see some divots here from the water from the previous page, but you know, it does handle it pretty well, better than I was expecting. Yeah, I think the sizing in this paper has gone bad. The pigment's moving a bit, but it's not moving as much as it should. Okay, so it seems it wasn't just the watercolor paper in the notebook. The paper here is also not reacting the same ways that Albert Dürer ones did. So these are Ecoline pens. So they're concentrated watercolors. Like they sell them as like liquid watercolors in little jars that you can get, but this is it in a pen form. So I guess it's obviously different formulas than the Faber-Castell ones. But yes, that's how they react on the watercolor paper. It's actually very similar to how they reacted in the sketchbook. So I will just do the red ones in the sketchbook. Okay, so that's how the reds set looks as well. So it's a nice warm colour palette there with the yellows, earth colours and the reds. Okay, so coming back to this one, you can see how these pens reactivated a lot better in terms of disappearing light, the actual lines, than the Albert Dürer ones did. But there again, I tried it with the bullet nib and not the brush nib side, but anyway, looks good. Now, the last thing we have to try out today are the watercolor paints that I got. So I'm just going to squeeze out a little dollop into this little palette from each one. So I think now we're going to try out these colours on both papers and see how they work. So first up we have Cobalt Turquoise by Lucas, and this is PB28. Lucas here in the UK, or at least from Jackson's, is very affordable. It's they come in 28mm tubes, which are pretty big. I mean, it's the largest size tubes I've ever seen for watercolor paint. And yeah, they're only like, most of their paints are like £8 for the tube from Jackson's, which I think is really good value. I'm pretty impressed with the paper in the sketchbook about how well it's holding up. Alright, next up we have Cobalt Green, also by Lucas. This is PG50. Sometimes this is the pigment used for Cobalt Teal or Cobalt Turquoise. It kind of is either PG50 or PB28. So it just depends on brands, what they use. That's a lovely, it's fairly opaque cobalt green, but it's a beautiful hue. And then lastly from Lucas we have Gamboge. That is a beautiful sort of sunshine yellow colour. And then we have Neutral Tint by M. Graham. That is a beautiful colour. I'm really glad I got that one. It's a beautiful dark colour. I'll turn this around to use the other side. So next up we have Cobalt Azure Blue by White Knights, and I really love this colour. It's got a lot more punch than a typical cerulean, but it has its beautiful tone and when it's washed out. Absolutely stunning colour. Alright, then we have Ochre Light by White Knights. So I don't actually think I mentioned the pigment numbers again when I was talking about them. So Cobalt Green was PG50, Gamboge was PY153, Neutral Tint by M. Graham is PV19 and PG7, Cobalt Azure Blue is PG36, and then now we're going to do Ochre Light by White Knights. This is one of their new formulations for a yellow ochre, so I'm hopeful it's better than what I have previously had to use. Reactivates pretty well. Oh, this is much better. This is a much better yellow ochre and it's far more transparent. Their old yellow ochre was so streaky, it was not nice to work with. I never used it, and actually for a long time I didn't like yellow ochre because of that one. This one's a lovely, fairly transparent yellow ochre. It's a very similar colour to the actual page, so it's not super obvious. Then we have Golden Deep, which is PO62. Now I've tried the golden colour, which is the one that came in the set that I got, and I really didn't like it. I'm really not a fan. So hopefully this is a nicer colour. Yeah, this one is nicer. It's still not quite what I was hoping for, but it's definitely a nicer orange base to start with than the other golden colour that they have in the sets. So definitely happy to replace the golden with golden deep. Okay, so those are the watercolors that I got in this set, in this round rather. Yeah, really like these colors. That gamboge is beautiful. I'm really glad I got that one. I was kind of hesitant about whether or not to get it, but that is such a beautiful color. And here we go. That's how they look on here. So you can see there's some wrinkling and warping of the paper. You can see that there. But you know, hasn't transferred to the back side. On either side the colors don't run through, so that's great. The paper's holding up well to the wet media, even though it does crinkle a bit, which I actually don't mind that, especially in books that aren't intended to be like watercolor paper. If they can handle watercolor, I don't mind that crinkliness. I kind of think it's quite a fun feature of it. And that neutral tint has got some really fun sort of, I'm not sure if it's not granulation, but it's kind of like a weird sort of speckling effect, which I'm not hating, I will be honest. It's not, it's kind of doing that a little bit on the watercolor paper as well. I'm not sure what that's called. I don't think it's granulation. I think it's got a different name, I'm just not sure what it is. But that's pretty. Alright, so thank you so much for joining me today for part 2 of this haul. This is the swatching part. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in another video soon. Alright, take care. Bye!